Welcome to Blood Sugar Squad, your go-to channel for simple, actionable tips to manage diabetes and live your best life. When someone is first diagnosed with diabetes, they are often handed a pamphlet, given a few generic instructions, and sent on their way. Cut back on sugar, lose some weight, move more, and then they are left to figure out the rest on their own. The problem is, those generic instructions are easy to ignore. They feel like suggestions, not rules. And the consequences of not taking them seriously? No one really explains those either. Many people look back on their early days after diagnosis and think the same thing. I wish I had known then what I know now. Today, we are going to cover the lessons that often come too late, the food mistakes, the numbers that actually matter, and the complications that do not just happen to other people. Segment 1. The food mistakes. When first diagnosed, many people hear cut back on sugar, and they do. They stop drinking soda, they stop adding sugar to coffee, and they might even cut back on desserts. But here is what no one tells them. Sugar is not the only problem. Some people have cut down donuts from every day to once a week, thinking that was a huge victory. And it is a step in the right direction. But donuts once a week is still too much when you're trying to get blood sugar under control. The flour, the frying oil, and the icing all add up to a glucose spike. And even beyond obvious sweets, many people do not realize that rice, bread, pasta, and pizza can be just as problematic. A bowl of white rice can spike blood sugar as much as a candy bar. Pizza combines refined carbs with fat, which can lead to a delayed second spike hours later. That is why simply cutting out sugar is often not enough to get blood sugar under control. What many people wish they had known earlier is that they needed more specific guidance than eat less sugar. The real goal is learning to manage refined carbohydrates more carefully overall. Swap white rice for cauliflower rice. Choose bread with more fiber and protein. Treat pizza as an occasional indulgence instead of a weekly habit. Small changes help, but understanding how these foods actually affect blood sugar is what makes the biggest difference. Segment 2. The numbers that matter. Many people leave the doctor's office knowing their number is high, but not really understanding what that means. They might hear, "Your A1C is 8.2, and then go home and check their glucose meter, only to see numbers like 130 or 160. And suddenly, nothing makes sense. Why are the numbers completely different? Here is what many people wish they had understood from the beginning. Your glucose meter and your A1C are measuring different things. A fingerstick glucose reading is a snapshot of your blood sugar at that exact moment. A1C is different. It measures how much sugar has attached to your red blood cells over roughly the past 2 to 3 months. In other words, it reflects your long-term average blood sugar, not just what is happening today. That is why A1C is not a test you can study for the week before. You cannot eat perfectly for 3 days and erase months of high blood sugar. If your A1C is elevated, it means your glucose has been running high consistently over time. And that long-term exposure is what damages blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and eyes. Many people also wish someone had clearly explained the ranges. An A1C below 5.7% is considered normal. Between 5.7 and 6.4% is prediabetes, and 6.5% or above is diabetes. These numbers are not arbitrary. They are tied directly to the risk of long-term complications. And then there are CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, which can make things even more confusing at first. Unlike a fingerstick meter, a CGM does not measure glucose directly from your blood. It measures glucose in the fluid between your cells, called interstitial fluid. That is why CGM readings can sometimes lag behind fingerstick readings by several minutes, especially after meals or exercise. But what CGMs do incredibly well is show trends. They show whether your blood sugar is rising, falling, or staying stable throughout the day. That is where time in range becomes important. Time in range means the percentage of time your glucose stays between 70 and 180. Below 70 is considered low blood sugar, also called hypoglycemia. For most people without diabetes, fasting blood sugar is typically under 100, and readings consistently above 180 after meals are generally considered high. Many diabetes experts now consider time in range one of the most useful ways to understand day-to-day control because it shows how often your blood sugar is actually staying in a healthy zone, not just what your average looks like on paper. And if you ever see glucose numbers like 7.7 instead of 140, that is just a different measurement system. The 7.7 is measured in millimoles per liter, or mmol/ll, while the 140 is measured in milligrams per deciliter, or mg/dl. They represent the same blood sugar level, just in different units. I will include this conversion calculator in the description below. What many people wish they could tell their newly diagnosed self is this: your A1C is not a grade, and your glucose meter is not judging you. These numbers are tools. The more you understand them, the more control you have over your health. Segment 3, the sedentary wake-up call. When first diagnosed, most people focus entirely on food: what they eat, what they cut out, and what they replace. This makes perfect sense. Food is immediate and food is visible. But what many people do not realize is that inactivity plays a major role too. Sitting for hours at a desk, on the couch, or in the car reduces your body's sensitivity to insulin. Your muscles are some of the biggest users of glucose in the body. But when they are inactive for long periods, they stop pulling glucose out of the bloodstream efficiently. Blood sugar can creep upward even when you are not eating. Many people assume that because their blood sugar is high, the problem must only be food. But movement matters more than they realize. And the good news is that you do not need extreme workouts to make a difference. A 10-minute walk after meals can noticeably improve blood sugar for many people. Standing up every hour, taking the stairs, parking farther away. Small movements repeated consistently add up over time. What many people wish they had known earlier is that exercise is not just about losing weight. Movement helps your muscles use glucose more effectively in real time. In a very real sense, physical activity helps your body do some of the work insulin is supposed to do. Segment 4, the progression trap. Here is a hard truth that many people learn too late. When first diagnosed, some people make small changes. They cut back on soda. They try to walk a little more. They lose a few pounds. And those changes matter. But sometimes the changes are not enough to fully control the disease. If someone lowers their A1C from 8.5 to 7.5, that is real improvement. But blood sugar is still running high enough to increase the risk of long-term complications. Over time, diabetes often becomes harder to control because the body's insulin production may continue to decline. Eventually, some people who once managed with lifestyle changes alone may need medication. Some may eventually need insulin. That is not a personal failure. It is not proof that someone did diabetes wrong. Diabetes is a progressive disease for many people, even when they are trying. What many people wish they had understood earlier is that the beginning matters, but so does right now. The best time to make big changes was at diagnosis. The second best time is today. Improvement at any stage, even years later, still lowers your risk of complications and helps your body work better. Do not let perfect timing be the enemy of good progress. Segment 5. The complications are real. And finally, let us talk about the part that no one wants to think about. When first diagnosed, many people hear words like nerve damage, kidney disease, or diabetic eye disease, but emotionally, it still feels distant. They think those problems happen decades later, or only happen to people who completely ignored their diabetes. But complications are tied much more closely to long-term blood sugar exposure than most people realize. The damage is cumulative. High blood sugar slowly stresses blood vessels and nerves throughout the body. And the difficult part is that this damage is usually silent at first. There is no alarm bell, no immediate pain. A person can feel fine for years, while damage gradually builds in the background. Then one day there is tingling in the feet, blurry vision, protein showing up in a urine test, slower healing. And many people look back and realize they did not fully understand how serious uncontrolled blood sugar could become. The purpose of this video is not to scare anyone, it is to make the stakes clear. Diabetes complications are not random bad luck. In many cases, they are the result of blood sugar staying elevated for too long. And the good news is that lowering blood sugar, improving time in range, staying active, and following treatment plans can significantly reduce those risks. What many people wish they had known from the beginning is that the effort they put in today is not just about their next doctor's appointment. It is about protecting their eyesight, kidneys, nerves, heart, mobility, and independence years down the road. Segment 6, Final Thoughts. When many people are first diagnosed with diabetes, they are given a few quick instructions and expected to figure out the rest on their own. But diabetes management is more complicated than simply eating less sugar. It is understanding how carbohydrates affect blood sugar. It is understanding what A1C and glucose numbers actually mean. It is realizing how much movement matters. It is recognizing that being proactive can change the course of the disease. And it is understanding that complications are real, but often preventable. This video is the conversation many people wish they had on day one. You do not have to become perfect overnight, but you do have to take it seriously. You cannot go back and talk to the version of yourself that was just diagnosed. But you can make decisions today that your future self will be grateful for. What do you wish you had known when you were first diagnosed? Comment below, and please share this video with someone newly diagnosed. Until next time, stay strong, stay sweet, but not too sweet, and keep thriving with the Blood Sugar Squad.